Welcome back, my fellow flight simmers, to the second episode of the ground school series with the Airbus A320nx. We are still parked at Liverpool, ramp 40, and in the last episode we programmed the MCDU, we programmed the nav radios, we did go through the checklist. And I'm sorry, I didn't realize part of the checklist was covering the screen. So let's jump into the cockpit and we'll talk about what was that part, and we'll move on to the rest of the checklist items where we are ready to start the APU and leave the gate. So the part of the checklist was covering this section when I was speaking about moving the ADIRS system to the nav, and then the flight control computers, they need to be dark, nothing should be illuminated. Over here as well, these two buttons should be guarded, emergency electrical power, and they should be dark. Ground proximity warning system should be all dark and not illuminated. And we turned off on the crew oxygen supply. These calls, we will worry about that later, and that's pretty much it. The other thing you need to test is the annunciation lighting test, where you turn this to the test switch and go through the cockpit to see all the lights are lighting up so that nothing is broken. When a warning comes out, you'll be able to see it. I'm sorry, wrong button. And when you test it, you can turn this to bright or dim based on your liking. I'll keep it on bright. And we'll keep continuing with the checklist item in a second, but I just want to share something with you guys. Now the ground services through the EFB are functional. We can connect it takes a couple clicks. We can connect the ramp to board our passengers, and if we take a look at outside, the ramp is driving up, the door is already open, it's gonna drive up and connect. We can also do the same thing with the baggage, and then after and the catering service. Like so, they will all drive up, start loading the aircraft, and after some time, when they finish their jobs, they will automatically disconnect and the doors will be automatically closed. Okay. While they are doing this, and the other thing that is changed since the last episode is the QNH value, because I am recording this on a different date, and that is 983 now. So let's go and set the QNH value. Very low pressure today, 983, and then we'll do the same thing for the standby altimeter and roll it down to 983, and then make sure they are aligned. And that's it. We are pretty much ready to start the APU. To do that, we go to the overhead panel. We do run an APU fire test to make sure when we start the APU, if there is a fire, the system will engage. So when done that, we can go and turn on the APU master and wait for the flap open message over here on the lower ECAM. And that is one of the checklist items. By the way, I found a checklist that's for fly-by-wire mod in the Flight Sim TO website. I will share the link in the description field of the video if you want to download this instead of the one that we used in the first episode. The flap open message is there. Let's go up there, turn the APU master on. This will start spooling the APU turbine at the back of the aircraft, and when N percentage hits 100, APU will become available. And then we will continue with the checklist items when the APU is ready for us. Okay. And we are assuming, because we are not using the ATC, we are assuming we obtained the IFR clearance from the ATC. which is one of the checklist items as well. So the APU is almost online. We see the button is lighted or illuminated as available. Let's go through the checklist. Exterior power can go off now, and we can send him away from the EFB like so. Now he is gone. And let's go down the checklist. GPU truck is disconnected. Cockpit lights as required, they are now. Hydraulic yellow pump. Let's see if there is a hydraulic yellow pump at the overhead panel. There should be one. So that's blue, green, and yellow pump. We'll turn on the yellow pump. It is actually on. Flaps are retracted. They are not, because I went into the menu just a second ago, so they are now retracted. Ground spoilers are disarmed. Probe window heat. That's at auto, not on, so we'll leave it alone. APU bleed is on now. Cross bleed should be auto. That is, I believe, not seeing it well enough from here. And APU bleed is on. I don't see any other bleed options here. Or neither the cross bleed, so I'm not sure. I'm going through the checklist for the Airbus A320 fly-by-wire and looking for a cross bleed. And not seeing it, so I'm assuming that is something automatic. Let's skip that. And if anybody happens to find this out, please let me know in the comments where it's located. Air conditions packs 1 and 2, they are on right here and right there. Temperature selectors are set to, let's just warm it up just a little bit. It's a little bit colder day today. And emergency lights are already armed. We are ready to do the pushback and the engine start, but before doing so we have to run the engine fire test for both engines. That's okay. That's okay. And then we'll go and turn the strobe lights to auto. Altimeter is set, MCDU is set. We'll enter the squawk code to the transponder. We'll throw something in there, 2536. 2366. That's set. Transponder can now become to auto. Flight director is already on. Constraints are turned on. Nav mode is set. We'll turn on the ADF and VOR on the nav radios. That is also set. We'll check the clock. ATC TCAS is on standby. Let's verify that. That is this tiny switch here that shows standby right now. Anti-skid is on. And headers is already aligned. So before start, let's go to the EFB. Let's verify the doors are closed and the stairs are dismissed. Seatbelt signs are on. Let's turn the seatbelt signs on. Let's assume the passengers are already boarded. Let's turn on the non-smoking signs as well. We'll turn on the beacon light now and we'll request pushback. So we'll call the tug. Tug will drive up as you see here. We already did the fire test, so we are ready to start the engines. We'll turn on the fuel pumps now. We don't have any fuel in the center tank, so we'll leave the center tanks alone. Crossfeed, I don't think we will need it. This is just to prevent fuel imbalance, but it is doing a pretty good job when you leave it at auto. And the tug, I believe, is now connected. As you see, I saw a slight movement, so we can now start the pushback. Before doing so, we need to turn off the parking brake and verify that's turned off. Here, go to the EFB and start the pushback. While the pushback is starting, we'll turn the ignition selector to ignition start, and we'll start with right engine first. Let's take a look. I think we are now ready to make that turn to push the tail to the left. Right engine is starting. We monitor N2. N2 is rising. At around 20% we should see fuel flow. There we go, fuel flow is there. M1 started to rise. That is a good sign for the engine start. And we are getting close to the taxiway. That wasn't a bad pushback at all. And I think about that is not being automated at all. We'll stop the pushback here. Hit the brakes, dismiss the tug, and then turn the parking brake on. When the tug dismissed, they should stop either side of the aircraft and so show you the pin that is removed, but that's not modeled in Microsoft Flight Simulator, it's in X-Plane. Right engine is online, so we'll go and start the left engine and do the same thing. Watching the N2 at around 21-22%, we should expect to see fuel flow. It's rising. We can also see engines pulling here from the outside view. Let's go back and keep watching the N2. Fuel flow is there. M1 started rising, EGT started rising, and it should stabilize shortly. So we'll do the after start checklist items when the second engine stabilizes and becomes online. I'm not sure why I'm seeing speed brakes. We'll just do this. Alright, almost there. At around 19%, the second engine, the left engine, should also stabilize. Alright, both engines are started. Actually, in real life, you don't dismiss the tug until you have a good engine start for both engines, just in case if you need to push somewhere else, but we did it early. So after start checklist, ignition selector goes to normal, APU bleed goes to off, APU master, ground spoilers. Let's arm the ground spoilers. Ground spoilers are armed. Auto brakes are set to max. Rudder trim reset to 0. Pitch trim, now it is time to adjust our pitch trim. If you remember from our performance calculation, we have a 0.3 down pitch trim. We go to the flight control page, the pitch trim is displayed here. We turn the wheel until we see down 0.3, that is the pitch trim set. We'll set the flaps to flaps 1 for takeoff. And we'll turn off the APU master now. APU master is turned off. And we'll now do a flight control check. We'll look to the lower ECAM. We'll do full left, center, full right, center, full forward, center, full back, center, full right rudder, center, full left rudder, center. And that is the flight control check for us. Alright, we are getting ready to taxi. We will assume that we obtained the taxi clearance from ATC. So now we'll turn the nose wheel light to taxi position. We'll also turn the runway turn-off lights. That's cloudy a little bit today. And we will release the parking brake. Parking brake is released, and now we are ready to taxi. We'll apply just a little bit throttle, like so, until we get moving, and then go back to idle, and that should take care of the movement, and we will keep moving at idle throttle, following the taxiway. We'll take a left turn from here. This is one of the airports that's brought with the UK and Ireland update, or the world update 3, I believe. We'll take this left turn, and as you see, there is a light pole in the middle of the taxiway, so to avoid that I'll make the turn a little bit sharper and try not to hit the light pole while passing through the taxiway. I'm not sure if we can avoid it. We did, I guess. We'll make this right turn from here, and we'll go to our holding point, which is not this one but the second entry to the runway, because we have a 68 degrees of flex temp, so that will require a little bit more runway, so we'll use the full length of the runway from the second entry. Okay, we are almost there. We will hold short at the hold short point, and we'll just do what is required. Alright, coming there nicely, making the turn. Still my rudders are a little bit more too sensitive than I like. Maybe I will go and adjust the sensitivity later on. They just make sudden turns. I like that to be a little bit smoother and less jumpy, so to speak. Okay, that's our hold short point. Let's stop here and let's, oops, wrong button. Let's set the parking brake and let's go through the checklist items. Weather radar. We'll turn on the weather radar to captain's side, although it doesn't matter in Microsoft Flight Simulator because both screens will receive it. Terrain will turn on for the captain's side, and we'll look at the weather radar on the first officer side. Brake temperatures. Let's check the brake temperatures through the it should be, which one? Not that one. Wheel page, yeah. Brake temperatures are normal, that's good. ATC TCAS to TARA, so now we can turn on the ATC and altitude reporting. We'll turn on the landing lights and the nose lights to takeoff. Actually, in real life, you turn the landing lights on after you you get takeoff clearance to let the aircraft around you know that you have takeoff clearance and you will be taking off shortly. Alright, so that is pretty much everything we need to do to get ready, and we'll also do the takeoff configuration test. That is done. We'll turn on the predictive wind shear. That is now also on. We'll release the parking brake. Parking brake is now released. We'll keep moving, and then we will inform the cabin, take their seats for takeoff. There we go. Now we will line up to the runway. Everything is looking great. And while we are here lining up, we'll as well do a rolling takeoff. We'll get to the runway, we'll increase the throttle to about 40%. When the engines are stable, we'll go flex. Okay, manage flex 68, SRS runway blue. So the takeoff thrust is set, airspeed is alive. Maintain the center line, 100 knots is checked. And remember, we are measuring the distance from ILVR to make the right turn after 1 mile. We rotate is there, we are almost at the end of the runway. We'll pitch the nose to about 10 degrees and we'll keep it there. Positive rate of climb, gear is coming up. And we are at 1 mile now. We'll make that turn. We just passed 1 mile mark. We'll keep the climb at around 10 degrees to gain some speed to get to the flaps clean speed, which is 220, I believe, based on our performance calculations. So we'll try to maintain that. So that is also good. We'll push the nose just a little bit down, and then we'll hit autopilot on, climb lever to throttle lever to climb, and then the aircraft will speed up by leveling off to the clean flap speed, and then we will clean up the speeds and keep going from there. So that is the takeoff for us. Now we are done with the ADF as a backup, so we'll switch to the VOR, and we don't need this anymore. So we'll track the next VOR, which is Han. Okay, we are at about flaps up speed. Now the aircraft will start speeding up and climbing up to 4,000 feet, which is a restriction we have at, I believe, let me check the departure chart. That 4,000 restrictions is at VHI, which is this guy over here, which is also showing 590, which is not correct. Let's go and see if we can fix that problem. Okay, VHI restriction is not that. We have a restriction of 4,000. We don't have a speed restriction, so we will go back and hope that the aircraft will follow that restriction until 90, which is also a 4,000 restriction for us. So regardless of what we set here, the aircraft should follow those restrictions. We should be able to switch to our cruising altitude of 19,000, but the aircraft will not climb until we clean that restriction. Alright, all is going good so far. Now we do the after takeoff checklist. Gear is already up. We'll disarm the ground spoilers now. Ground spoilers are disarmed. Autopilot is already on. Thrust levers are set to climb. Flaps are retracted. So the after takeoff checklist is complete. We'll do the climb checklist because we are climbing right now. Actually, you shouldn't be climbing, buddy. Let's go back to 4,000 and select that to maintain that restriction. We don't want to get over the restriction and keep climbing because we have to follow that restriction. So that was a little bit unfortunate that we didn't maintain that, but we are going back down to 4,000. NTIs, I'm not sure if we will be needing NTIs, but looks like we might due to the cloud layers ahead of us, so we'll be better off with turning them on. We can turn off the runway turn-off lights and taxi lights or nose wheel steering light because the gear is retracted. Okay, altimeter is checked. We have our transition altitude of 5,000. Until 5,000 we are good with what's over there. And that is the above the line climb checklist until 10,000. We will do the below the line when we are passing 10,000. We, I believe, now cleared that restriction, so we can go to 19,000 and engage manage speed mode. Now we started climbing towards our cruise level. We can increase the range now to 40 miles. And when we are passing 5,000, we'll switch to standard barometric pressure. There we go. Nice climb rate there. We'll keep the NTI systems on because we will be passing through the clouds. We passed 5,000, so let's switch to standard barometric pressure setting, and the aircraft will keep climbing. Yeah, we are at the standard setting, buddy. Oh, I know why this is happening, because we forgot to probably enter the transition altitude to the init page when we were doing the, or the performance page when we were doing the performance calculations, but it's all good. We are about to get to 10,000, which was the default transition altitude, so it should stop flashing when we get there. And we are getting close to 10,000. We can start doing the below the line checklist. Landing lights. Landing lights can now turn off momentarily. There we go. Landing lights are off. Nose light is already off. Runway turn off lights are off. Seatbelt signs, we can turn them off now. Terrain on ND, now we can turn off the terrain. And that is pretty much it for the below the line climb checklist until cruise level. Alright guys, that is the taxi takeoff climb with the Ground School Series Airbus A320 NX by Fly-by-Wire mod. I am using the development version, where it makes it possible to enter your own altitude restrictions, as you have seen. Next episode will be the cruise, descent, approach and landing all together in one episode, if I can do it very quickly in about 30 to 40 minutes of video. If not, we will split it into 2 episodes, but I'm planning to do it in 1 episode. Thanks for being with me today, and thanks for watching the video. If you want to get notified for the future episodes, please subscribe and turn on the notifications, and I will see you in the next video.